So this is a really interesting part of the interview. And this is the part of the interview where I said, wow, I haven't really thought about this. Because Michael Cohen was asked by Lester Holt, if you had a chance to sit down with Donald Trump now, which he hasn't spoken to Donald Trump, he said, by the way, since 2018. So Lester Holt asked him, if you had a chance to sit down with Donald Trump right now, what would you say to him? And this is an attorney. Even though he's still not Donald Trump's attorney anymore, I believe this is Michael Cohen giving his former client legal advice. Have a listen to Michael Cohen's answer. This is very interesting.
I would tell him he should resign now. Let Mike Pence pardon you from any and all potential crimes that will come out against you, and that would be my recommendation to you. Step aside.
I'll tell you something. If you take ego out of this thing, that might not be bad advice, because there's a lot of people that believe, and we've had some pretty big guests on this show that believe that when Donald Trump is out of office.
We had Lanny Davis tell us that he's going to be indicted.
I've spoken to some prominent people that agree with Lanny Davis.
And I'm sure Michael Avenatti thinks the same thing.
I've spoken to a lot of people that feel that way. And what Michael Cohen is basically saying is, I would tell him to step aside, not because, you know, not for political reasons, for your own sake, that if you leave office and Mike Pence takes over, he can pardon you. I don't think that's bad advice at all. I actually think that's good advice. I think that Michael Cohen being an attorney, that's what he's doing. Still the fixer. But I don't think he's fixing anything with that kind of advice. I actually think it's good advice.
Can the vice president, let's assume that Donald Trump loses and he decides to resign, can the vice president actually absolve him of any future crimes or investigations?
Yes.
Are you sure?
My understanding is yes.
So that's a pre-pardon, basically. That's not an actual pardon. A pardon is when you're convicted of a crime.
Well, of course.
You're supposed to go to jail, or you're supposed to
the only way
serve
Mike
your sentence
Pence
or whatever your punishment is, and then, like, for example, with John Part.
The only way Pence could do that is if he became president. That's
well, obviously, I get that, but can you actually do that before a crime is committed, or before you're tried for a crime?
No, there has to be some sort of conviction, as far as I know.
Right. Well, exactly. So you're assuming then, if let's say Trump loses and Mike Pence is the president for 3 months, because on January 21st everything flips over.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example.
So you would have to convict Donald Trump in those 3 months, and knowing that Trump was going to do that, whoever would be responsible for that wouldn't actually do that.
Well,
I believe that the example that Cohen is making up, and again, I'm not an attorney, but I don't think that's even feasible at this point.
It is, because President Ford pardoned Nixon. So, I mean, it has happened before. So Rachel Maddow also
did. But Nixon was convicted of a crime.
Yes, he was.
Okay.
Yes,
well,
he was.
Trump is before he was pardoned.
As I said, no, he was not convicted at that time. So clearly, in that situation, you don't have to be convicted of a crime. So you can look that up. You can look that up.
Yeah,
I'm not a historian, but I don't think you need to be convicted. And I don't think Cohen would have said that unless that was not the case. So.